Good evening, everyone. My name is Savannah Po. I am the Executive Director of the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association here in the beautiful city of Lowell. Another reminder that this is a Candlelight Vigil, so if you don't have a candle and you are okay to participate, please have a candle or incense in your hand. I want to take this next minute to have a moment of silence for the individuals that passed last night and also before as well. Before I begin, I want to thank all of our partners that made this gathering possible. We have the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Consortium of Lowell. We have the Program for Asian American Student Advancement at Middlesex Community College. We have the Asian Pacific Islanders Civic Action Network, which is a coalition of Asian servant organizations for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Clemente Park Committee, the Cambodian American Literary Arts Association, also known as CALA, UMass Lowell Center for Asian American Studies, Angkor Dance Troupe, and also UMass Lowell's Cambodian American Student Association. Thank you all for making this event possible for us. I'd also like to thank every single one of you, all of you, your community members of this beautiful city of Lowell. You made a decision to be here with us tonight, to be part of an event, of a series of events that had taken place, that had taken lives, that had broken families, that had people crying, dealing with trauma. But you're here. You're here because you want to show solidarity. You want to be in unity, to tell all of these things that's happening to not just us Asian American Pacific Islander folks, but BIPOC folks all around this country, this world. It's happening to people that do not deserve to be happened to. You took that chance, you took that opportunity to be here with us, and I really, from every single one of us here, we really deeply appreciate you for being here with us. I want to thank our elected friends from the state office, from the mayor's office. You're all here in solidarity with all of us. You're not just our elected representatives, you're also our neighbors, our friends, our families, working for us, together with us. And tonight is a perfect example of you being together with us. So thank you for being here. This evening's agenda is focused on the voices of our community members, the ones that have been deeply affected by issues and events that have happened in their lives. When each of these individuals come up, I want to remind you that they're opening up and they are sharing a piece of them that may not have ever shared before. Before I ask the first speaker to come up, I also want to thank the Lowell Police Department for being here together with us as well, making sure that our community is safe. Our first speaker, I want to welcome up Ms. Sue Kim.
Well, when I think about what happened in Atlanta, the 8 people killed, 6 of them were Asian women. 4 of them were Korean American women. If it weren't for an accident of birth where I got born to a upper middle class Korean family who were students, that could have been me. I just wanted to respond to some of the stories that have been on the news, right? The way that the story is being covered. I keep seeing on CNN, they keep saying it's too early to determine if it's a hate crime. 6 out of the 8 people who were killed were Asian women. What more do you need as proof that this was a hate crime? They keep saying that the shooter was having a bad day and was addicted to sex. Well, let me tell you, I wanted to say 3 sort of overall things. One is that when we talk about hate crimes, we have to talk about them as Asian women, but we also have to talk about them as sex workers, right? And the context of sex work in the United States and globally can't be separated from the history of Cold War and colonialism and neo-colonial wars across the world that the U.S. has participated in, where there is a discourse around the world where Asian women are fetishized and objectified, right? Where women in sex trafficking in general. So there's a couple of things that we need to help women become liberated, and we also have to understand these women as human beings who can make choices and who can organize themselves. So I just want to make that because that seems to get lost a lot, right? Another point is what I was just saying. is that we have to understand when we talk about race and ethnicity in the United States, people don't come from somewhere for no reason, right? We have to understand the histories and contexts that bind us all together, right? Every single country in this world essentially has been shaped by the Cold War and colonialism and neocolonialism. You can't understand the shape of the world today. I'm Korean American. You can't understand North Korea and South Korea, Cambodia, Vietnam, Latin America, Africa, right? Every part of the world has been shaped. And this is a kind of plea to broaden the way that we think about race and ethnicity, right? I know that there are people in the city, elected officials, who think that we don't have a race problem in this city, but it's not that simple. It's not as simple as this person is a racist or not. We have to understand that these are larger systems and histories in which we live, which everything from housing to health to education are deeply entrenched in these histories, and it takes a long time to change, right? So these histories and systems that we have to understand, these things should be taught in our schools, right? So that's my third point, right, is that picking up on what Savannah said, we're here today to specifically talk about anti-Asian hate. But I personally will refuse to be part of any movement that doesn't also recognize racism against Black people, Indigenous people, Latinx people. White supremacy works by dividing to conquer. When we stand together, we can change everything. We can change city government, we can change the schools, we can change the healthcare system, we can change how housing works. But to do all that, we must stand together. So thank you for listening to both my universal global abstract as well as my very specific personal story. But thank you all for coming.
I told myself I won't cry. This is a very personal story for me. I came here to live in freedom with my husband and children, the same as everyone else. Since my husband died and left me, what good is freedom now? These are the words of my mother when she was 35 years old. She was interviewed by a Boston Globe reporter in I am the daughter of Bun Vong and Nita Nu, refugees from Cambodia who escaped a war and a genocide. And like so many other Cambodians in Lowell, they fled to Thailand. My dad had his heart and his eyes set on the American dream. He believed in the American dream. And what transpired 4 years later, coming to America, was in fact an American nightmare. In August 1985, my father and his friend was involved in a traffic dispute that started in Revere and ended in Medford. The other car had two white men. They claimed they were acting in self-defense. But how can a 6-foot, 160-pound white man defend himself from a 5'2" petite Asian man? The only other witness was my dad's friend, and he was denied a translator in court because they said he can understand and speak English well. So my father's murder was not deemed a hate crime. Asians for Justice organization advocated. Then Governor Dukakis advocated. Both were still not a hate crime. Much like the 6 Asian women who were murdered last night, 24 hours later, still not a hate crime. 6 Asian mothers, sisters, aunts, and maybe even grandmothers will not come home because of the American reality, racism. Tonight, we come to remember not only the 6 women lost, but all Asian people who have lost their lives to racially motivated violence. And it's us, with our feet to march, our voice to speak, and our votes to cast, to transform America. Our shared cause is this: to dismantle white supremacy. Thank you.
I would like to share with you some of my thoughts and my feelings on this as I started to read more, of course, and just read stories of what's been happening across the country, because it's not just an Asian thing. This is violence against human beings. But tonight we want to focus a little bit on Asian lives, right? We have to ask ourselves this. Why did it have to become a hashtag for us to speak about these lives that were lost? Why did hate become a trend? How did hate become a trend? Is the question I've been asking. How did hate become a trend? What has happened to humanity? What has happened to all of us that we can see death on TV? We have seen it recorded, we have seen it live streamed, and somehow we can still turn away and go out to dinner and be with our friends as if we didn't just witness death on TV. How many more lives will it take for us to wake up and realize that we have a serious problem in this country? There are so many layers to these issues that I cannot talk about it in one evening in 5 minutes. We know what they are. We are talking about it, but what are we doing to address it? So that brings me to my next point. Where's the leadership? Where's the leadership in this, ladies and gentlemen? How do we hold our leaders accountable and have them stand up against hate? How do we work together to make sure that no other person is going to lose their daughter or their mom or their grandfather? Because you see, a year ago, we started to see the rise in hate crimes against Asian communities. We started to see the trend of elderly Asian people being pushed, being shoved, being stabbed. If elderly people are not safe in this country, who is? That could be your grandmother. That could be your grandfather. That could have been your daughter. So I end it with this. Let's not forget we are human beings. We all have value. I care about you, and I hope that you care about me. I care about my family, and I hope you care about their lives as well. Let's not make hate a trend. Let's make loving each other a trend instead, because that's how we fight hate, with love. And then lastly, let's hold our leaders accountable. We have to get past the conversation and talk about resolutions to this so that we can end this, so that no one else will have to gather like this and mourn so many lives that have been lost. Thank you.
My name is Petita. I also go by Tita. I'm an intern here at CMAA. I want to share a few words today more broadly about the spike in Asian American attacks since the beginning of COVID. As you all know, and as everything has been circulated around the news, there has been an increase dramatically in Asian American violence since just the start of the pandemic. The exact percentage is 1,900%. That's a ridiculous amount. So when we say that our people are being killed, we want to be heeded. When we say that we are here because this is our home, we want people to pay attention to that. And so I think this is really an issue about the model minority myth, about this myth that Asian Americans are supposedly smart and successful and have succeeded in America. But that's not the truth, and it's detrimental to our communities, because when we say that, we also experience discrimination and violence, we are not taken seriously. And so today, again, thank you everyone for coming out. I think it's really important to build solidarity and to listen to one another and to share stories. I think this is the start of something like that.
I think that the events in Atlanta only highlights how vulnerable we all are and how fragile life can be. And that any day, something like that can happen and take us away from our loved ones. And during the time that we have here, I feel that the most important thing is to connect with one another. I hope that we are able to come together and see past skin color, ethnicities, countries of origin, to be able to see the humanity in one another. Because that's all we really are, right? Human beings. And the fact that we can share in our experiences in order to connect is one of the reasons why I chose to be part of the Cambodian American Literary Arts Association, to bring stories like this, an experience like this, for everyone to realize what it's like being in a marginalized group living here in America. For someone who works in the community and is an advocate and an activist, it's extremely exhausting to wake up and read stories like the one I read this morning. It's one of the reasons why I feel mentally and emotionally exhausted on a daily basis. But when I come together into the community and I see folks who are willing to rise up and speak out and hold authorities and people accountable for their actions, it gives me hope that we can all move forward. Because the only way we can fight hate is to be able to increase our capacity to love one another.
As a young person and an immigrant living in this country, I always take every event that happens toward people of color personally. The hate that we see before and after COVID started, it's just getting worse every day. Nowadays, I feel scared for my family whenever they go out in the public, and I don't believe that this kind of feeling should exist at all in this country. Hate and violence, we are never going to solve any problem at all. And keep up hope and stay strong that this will stop if only we stay strong and we work together. Thank you so much.
Nothing to say, but I have lots of tears to share. I cry on behalf of our ancestors, the 7 generations before us, the 7 generations in front of us. I cry for the sisters who were killed. I cry for their mothers. I cry for their brothers. I cry for their families, for their children, who they won't get to see anymore. I cry for you, and I cry for me. And I'm not going to apologize. Because anytime anyone comes up and says, I'm sorry for crying, I don't want you to apologize for being human, and for connecting, for valuing a life, for valuing hope, and wishing for better. Because we can do better, so much better. I'm an educator. I had to teach today, and I had to tell people that there is care in the world. There are people in the world. Because there are people who are scared. We're scared. I was scared. As an Asian woman who's 5 feet tall on a good day, I'm scared. So do I have to be afraid of when I walk outside? Do I have to be afraid for my mother, for my son? And the reality is yes. Yes, I do have to be afraid. But you do not stand in the paralysis of fear. It's what you do with that fear. Because look around you. Look how many people, if you saw someone being attacked, do something. You don't have to go in there yourself. You have cameras. You can document. You can distract. You can delay. You can delegate. You can go talk to other people and tell them what you saw. Do not put yourself in harm's way. We want you safe and whole, but we want you to take action. Because our silence tells other people it's okay. It is not okay to kill my family. It is not okay to kill my grandfather, my sister, my brothers. It is not okay. Hate is not okay. And you need to stand in solidarity with your tears, with your action, but with your heart and your vote. Because anyone who allows this to continue is telling everyone else that your life is not of value. You are all valuable members of our society, and we need you here, and we need your help, because we cannot do this alone.
If you really care, go educate yourself about Asian American histories and the violences that we've faced for many generations, not just now, not just COVID. And donate money. Finances get you somewhere. Donate to the lives, the families whose families were killed. Do something about it. You're here today to listen, but that doesn't end here. It doesn't end here, right? And you can hold your candles all you want, light your incenses, and pretend to be part of the community, but if you don't show up and show out during other forms of activism where we're holding city councilors or other organizers accountable, then you're not part of the movement. I don't want to be up here today, right? We're all grieving and it's not a party.
I don't want to get emotional, but it is just really emotional and really scary. I think, it's already been said in many ways, but the two things I want to highlight, the first is that, I had someone today tell me that it wasn't a racially motivated incident. Asian American women are constantly, because of their race, over-sexualized and face such violence. And the idea that this wasn't racially motivated, the two things can exist in the same space. So I just really want to bring that home. As a teenager in my early 20s, people said things to me like, "Me love you long time. I have yellow fever." That's racist. Let's be real, that's sexist and that's racist. So the idea that this radicalized person had a sexual addiction and we should feel bad for him and he had a bad day, no. So I think that's the first thing, and I know it's already been said. The second thing is that this is just a symptom of a larger problem. And it's a problem that doesn't value people and see people as human. And it's a problem that isn't just in Atlanta or Alabama. It's a problem all over the country and even here. So I think we need to just work together and listen to each other to solve that problem and believe people when they say things. Believe them when they say it's racist. Believe them when they say racism is a public health crisis and they feel the implications in their body. We should believe people instead of, listing off all the things you're doing for them. No, we are doing so many things here. We're paying our taxes, we're buying homes, we're investing in this community. We are Americans. I feel so sad and I feel so frustrated that someone would question that this is racist or not. So
I am a Cambodian American. Yes, that's correct. But that does not mean that we're different. We're human. I bleed just like you. I dodge bullet. I walk through landmine. I landed here without a word of English. That's right. To be assimilated. Apparently, when you live in America or anywhere as Asian, you're not supposed to say anything. You're supposed to bow down, do the work, and that is it. On a regular basis, I have women and men that work in all of the factory in here. They come to tell me how bad their boss is because they don't speak English that well. Our nieces and nephews stand right here. The fact they hold a sign in America that they're scared. Stop the hate. I'm not a virus. Are you kidding me? This is America 2021, folks. Talk to one another. We are human. We're not animal. That is the difference. I urge all of you to speak up. If you see something, do something. Literally, take action. That's how you stay alive. You care for one another. Every one of us have a life. If you actually know that your heart beats inside of you, when you take a breath, it is your breath only. You cannot take a breath for anyone else. That is how life starts. So therefore, yes, care for yourself so you can care for others. Thank you.
I wanted to give space for my Asian brothers and sisters who are experiencing the same thing that their African American brothers and sisters are experiencing. And we stand in solidarity together. I don't know if this word was said tonight, and if it wasn't, it's important to say it because this is a word that we run away from in our community. White supremacy. It is evil. It affects all of us, whether you're white, you're Asian, you're African, African American, whatever in the diaspora you are. White supremacy affects all of us. No one is immune to it, and we can't run away from it, and we have to address it head on. A good friend of mine, Sofan, said a couple moments ago, leadership, it's not easy. It takes courage. You're not always going to have the right words to say. Your palms are going to sweat. But you have to address the issue head on. White supremacy is a problem. It exists. It's a crisis. Racism is a crisis. There are young kids here today. My sons are playing back there. They are not Asian. They are black. They will experience racism in their lifetime. It is a fact. I can't do anything about that. But if we keep kicking the can down the road, saying it doesn't exist, waiting for lives to be taken to do something about this, we're fooling ourselves and we're wasting time. We're wasting too much time. And I don't want my sons, your daughter, your nephews, your cousins to stand here 15 years from now, 10 years from now, 10 days from now, saying the same things that we're saying today that was said 20 years from now. 20 years ago, excuse me, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago, 100 years ago. These things are not new. My wife says this all the time, and it's true. We're not crazy. Anti-Asian hate is real. They're not crazy. We're not the problem. And I need to say that because so many of us live like we're the problem. We're not the problem. We need to understand that we are not the problem.
We are not.
If you're Asian, we are here with you. Allies, thank you. We are not the problem. White supremacy is. And for anyone that denies that, they need to go.
We are not the problem.
We are not the problem.
White supremacy is the problem.
White supremacy is the problem.
Bobby, thank you. We cannot let the lives that were lost yesterday, the days before, the weeks before, the months before, the years before, to die in vain. What can we as a city do to be the model for other cities to follow? What can the city of Lowell, Massachusetts do to create change and support the lives that are affected every day? Every single one of you, in the beginning of this event, I said you are here for a reason. And that reason is to work together to make sure that our city, city of Lowell, Massachusetts, is going to be the model city for change, to change from hate to love. Thank you, everybody.